In a move he probably sees as brazen, but critics may see as foolish and short-sighted, conservative Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito today put himself over any and all concerns of his perceived lack of impartiality, informing lawmakers in two striking letters that he will not, I repeat, not recuse from cases involving the deadly January 6th insurrection. This despite calls to do so over the fact, not disputed, that his wife on two occasions flew flags at their two homes with symbols used by the January 6th insurrectionists on that day. Justice Alito fully and completely in black and white, blaming his wife for both those incidents, claiming this, quote, "As soon as I saw the upside-down American flag, I asked my wife to take it down. But for several days, she refused. My wife and I own our Virginia home jointly. She therefore has the legal right to use the property as she sees fit. And there were no additional steps that I could have taken to have the flag taken down more promptly." He adds that, quote, "My wife is fond of flying flags. I am not," end quote. What? What? Who says that about their wife or the upside-down insurrection flag? One of the 9 human beings on the Supreme Court, I guess. So the House Democrats are now responding, asking the Chief Justice John Roberts in a letter this afternoon how he plans to deal with this, how he plans to enforce the court's ethics code, because as they write, quote, "Adopting a code of ethics and failing to enforce it only serves to reinforce the perception that the Supreme Court justices operate without consequences for clearly unethical behavior." Joining our conversation, senior editor for Slate, host of the Amicus podcast, Dahlia Lithwick, is here, plus former RNC chair and co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend, Michael Steele, is here. Back at the table, former U.S. Attorney Harry Litman. Harry clerked for Supreme Court Justices Thurgood Marshall and Anthony Kennedy. Michael Steele, I got to start with you. What I want to say, I can't say even for my potty mouth broadcast here, but what is this? Who? Let's take the Supreme Court and the institution whose faith among the public has plunged farther and faster than any institution in civic life. Let's put a pin in that for a second. Who talks about their spouse like that?
Well, Nicole, we know who wears the flags in that family. That's for sure. It clearly ain't him. I think the brother needs to check how he's putting on his flags every morning. Look, that is some of the lamest sort of throwing the spouse under the bus. Yeah, I told her to take it down, but she refused to. Oh, you guys didn't have a conversation about this? You didn't impress upon her the symbolism of the upside down flag, irrespective of the current connotation of it in the context of January 6th. Before that, it is a symbol that the country's in distress. No one flies the flag upside down, especially if they get into an argument with a neighbor, because that was the whole premise of this. I saw a sign in the yard that said something terrible about Donald Trump. I got into an argument with a neighbor, then I go in the house and I fly my flag upside down. I just had an incident of road rage. What do? Come home and fly the flag upside down? Come on, stop it. You knew damn well what it was. You knew what it meant. You are aligned politically and ideologically with it. Because if you weren't, no matter, you would have gone and taken the flag down and just have your wife hit you upside the head with the flagpole later. But that's not what happened here. So stop stretching credulity and thinking that we're going to believe this crap coming out of your mouth about it when you know that's not true. We know it's not true. So, yeah, we know who wears the flags in that household.
And I guess, Dahlia, why I started here is because what Alito's doing substantively is saying, no, I will not recuse from January 6 cases. But what Alito is saying to us in his defensive crouch, which I don't know a lot about a lot of things, but I know a politically inspired defensive crouch where your hatred for the media that has the audacity to cover you as one of 9 human beings who sits on the United States Supreme Court is boiling out of you and sort of spilling out of you. What Alito is saying is, I can't have independence to make my own decisions on my own property, but trust me, I'll be independent on the Supreme Court. He is blowing out of the water any argument that he has the capacity to be neutral and unbiased in a decision by saying I couldn't assert my independence in my own home.
Right. And it's almost more depressing than that. Look, I think, Michael makes the correct point, which is like with perfect immunity from consequences comes perfect silliness, right? This doesn't pass anyone's laugh test. It's like he didn't try. It's like he asked some kid on the street to write a defense and then said, good enough. There's no sense that this is meaningful or serious to him other than the grievance, which is, as you say, very meaningful, very serious. And I think the thing that is really fascinating to me is both that he throws his wife under the bus three times he's thrown his wife under the bus. I guess his wife likes flags. Ginny Thomas likes going to the ellipse on January 6th. Like, these wives are complicated feminists. But I think the most astounding part of this is that he asserts these boundless First Amendment rights for his wife, boundless property rights, right? She's the co-owner of the property. She's the sole owner of the beach house. And these boundless rights for her to have autonomy and dignity from the man who gave you Dobbs is almost gobsmacking, right? This is a man who doesn't think any American women have autonomy and dignity to regulate their own lives. But his wife, oh no, that's different. He can't stand up to her because her autonomy and dignity knows no bounds.
Harry, he's also the person whose conduct, personal and professional, to Dahlia's point, is most closely associated with the things that the public says sort of behind the tabs in the polls. I think we have Gallup and a second one that shows the court at its approval rating, the lowest since the question has been asked by pollsters. It's under 40% of Americans who have faith in the court. There you go. 61% of all Americans in the Marquette poll. And I believe that's a tick lower than where Gallup has it, but they haven't asked it recently, certainly not since the story has come out. So this one individual of 9 is most responsible for the decision. He authored the Dobbs decision that I think has 67 to 93% opposition from the public when asked in different ways in polls, as well as the ethics breaches. He's the guy who flew private because he said, well, if I didn't sit in it, the seat would have gone empty. Yeah.
It's an aggravating factor, and it's not just Dobbs, it's also the mischief that he seems to be making with immunity. He's done it several times. I think even leaving that aside, this is an extraordinarily grave breach. It's much more, I think, than sometimes we worry. There's the confounding factor of crazy spouses, but that's not what's going on here. And his explanation really misses the point. He knew, and it stayed up there. And this isn't like, well, what we worry when somebody's being supported financially, that might somehow influence their view on the substance. This is the view of the substance. This is screaming from his house, stop the steal. And it's not only the most burning issue of the day, it's an issue on which some people are telling the truth and other people it's fiction. There is no steal. So for him to embrace it in this way and now not understand that it's about his knowing it and portraying to the public, it's a joke that the public would say, oh, that's just that crazy Martha. Of course not. This is their homes, and this is screaming out what Alito's views are, and it stays for days. I think it's the most serious breach that we've seen because it goes directly to his views, his bias in the most important cases pending.
Well, that's incredibly profound. I mean, I hadn't heard it articulated that way. He's one of 9 people in the Supreme Court, and he can't clearly see the truth of the election of 2020.
Yeah. Right. It's again, it's not even like a pro-life flag. It's stop the steal. That's a flippant outrage.